Hey, welcome to my podcast. I'm Manina, and you are listening to an episode of Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Hey, Inspirers. Welcome back to the Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Today I have a new guest. Her name is Lady Ty the Great. She's a truth consultant, an author, and she also has a course teaching people on how to become self-published authors the way that she did. So I want to welcome you, Lady Ty the Great, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here. Just as she said, I am Lady Ty the Great. And how can you be titled the Great, right? What does that title entail? Well, the title is inspiring, right? And I think we all have greatness on the inside of us. And so Lady Ty the Great, I'll just start with my name if I can, because that's the intro.
Right.
So I'm just going natural, just sharing with you guys. So Lady Ty the Great, my name is Titania, and for short, everybody called me Ty. And I was an entrepreneur at the age of like around 15, 16. And I had a company called LIP, which stood for Ladies in Promotion. And I worked in the music industry from like 1996 all the way to the year 2007, right? And working in that industry, me having a company, everybody had a nickname. And so when I worked at Trackmasters, Rich Knight said to me, "Hey, like, what's your nickname?" I was like, "I don't have one." And he's like, "Everybody's got a nickname." And I'm like, "I don't." And he was like, "Well, if your company is called Ladies in Promotion, why don't you just be Lady Ty?" And I was like, "Cool, that's cool. I like that." Right. So I didn't nickname myself. I kind of gained that name. So that was awesome. But then later on in life, as social media began to hit and you research Lady Ty, there was a rapper named Lady Ty. And I wasn't Lady Ty the rapper. And so anyway, I was like, well, how can I make myself different from this Lady Ty? Like, how can we know the difference? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to be greater. Lady Ty the Great. And so that's where we get Lady Ty the Great. But it actually pans out to my purpose. So I do something where I just believe that there is not a single person on this earth that does not have greatness in them. I just don't believe it. I believe that everybody has greatness in them, and I just believe that maybe it hasn't been discovered yet. Maybe it's been buried. And so my job as a truth consultant is to get to the truth, to get to the greater in you. So I believe in the greater in you. That's you that's listening to this podcast in this moment. And you may say, well, you don't know my life. You don't know my situation. All of these horrible things have happened, right? Because I get it, because that was me one time with the telling myself a sad story on my life, right? But I have pressed past some traumas. I have triumphed over trauma. I am now a self-published author of the book Daddy Issues. Yeah, you see that? When you say issues, you might not think greatness. But when you overcome issues, that's what makes you great. So I started out writing a book about issues, but now I'm releasing solutions to others. So I was never one that wanted to be an author when I grew up. I wanted to be a businesswoman. I wanted to have several businesses, and I just wanted to encourage other people not to give up. And along my journey, I wrote a book. And this was not the book that I wanted to write. I wrote this book in obedience in the order of my life. I love God. I am a super duper believer. I had a supernatural experience with him. And so that's where I get my encouragement from. Because when I was discouraged, when I was depressed, when I was down, when I didn't want to hear any more motivation, I had a supernatural encounter. And all of that information is in my book. But today I'm here just to share a little bit with you about the greatness that's within. Everybody is here with a purpose. And so because you have a purpose, you might not know that purpose. Maybe you can't identify with it. But as a truth consultant, what does that mean? Like, there's some lies that we hear in our head. Sometimes you ever got discouraged? I can't sing. But I remember when I was younger singing Whitney Houston, I believe the children are our future. Like, I remember singing that song with all of my heart and being in the car with my cousins, and somebody like, girl, you can't sing? And I was like, that was the first like revelation I had that I couldn't sing. Before that, I thought I could sing. You know what I'm saying? But I thought that, we're singing, and what am I saying? As a young child, my feelings were hurt. And as a young child, my feelings were hurt, but that caused me to press back and not sing around people. So, I mean, who's to say I couldn't have been a singer, right? But I mean, if I would have kept practicing, and I could have probably been good at it. But what am I saying? For many of us, we tried to do things, we attempted to do things, and something pushed us back. Something shut us up. Something stopped us from speaking or sharing. Insecurity got built, and we're just like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not for me. And so, because we all know when a baby's born, it doesn't run, it doesn't fly, it doesn't walk, it crawls before it walks. It walks before it runs. Like, there's a process. And so, I am, and you are, and we are in the process of greatness. There's an awesome scripture. I'm not going to preach. There's no offering plate. Don't worry about it. But there's a scripture that says, greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Don't get too deep in it. The point is, God created you, and God is great. And if he created you, he's your dad. He's on the inside of you. And now we just got to get to that point. He that has begun a great work in you is faithful to perform it. Sometimes I'm like, wait, what does that mean? And so, just to break it down the holy hood way, and for people that don't know, I'm holy hood. And what does holy hood mean? The hood people think I'm too holy now since I found God. And the holy people think I'm too hood since I'm still me. Right? Because I found a relationship with God, and not a religion. Not, oh, you got to do all of these things. I have a connection with God. And so, and because of that, I understand that there's a greater in me. Because even in me being not so great, God came in and showed me his love. And so now I share that message that, hey, listen, no matter where you are in your life, there is greater. There's another scripture, and then we'll stop preaching after this, right? Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, thus says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not plans to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. Well, my testimony is a little bit off the chain. It's crossed between scandal, love and hip hop, and yeah. And so I was on the news. My ex-husband tried to murder me over, we were married over 13 years. And the long story short is, in the middle of me hearing about this scripture, I said, man, this can't be life. Like, this scripture can't be real, because I'm in a situation where I'm being harmed. And there was a time where I just questioned God. I thought God had forgotten about me, and I was angry at God. And so that's where the daddy issues come from, because it started with God, and me having an issue with the different things that took place in my life. Molested at the age of 8. How can you be inspired with those type of life traumas, right? But all things work together for the good. So even in the midst of that, so I'm sharing that with you to say, no matter where you are in your life, I'm sharing a dark side, right? That somebody might look at like, man, that's horrible. Oh man. No, that's not how I'm looking at it. Because now I can share with somebody, you can overcome that, because I overcame it. So you don't have to have a pity party about what happened to you. And I'm not taking light of what happened to anybody, but I am now testifying from somebody who overcame some crazy stuff. But I'm here. And I did it. And now I'm inspired. So now I like to aspire others and encourage others that it's all good. So with all of that information is bottled up now in a story that I share with others. So being Lady Ty the Great, I share with others that you can operate in your greater. And what does that mean? You have to push out procrastination. There's some focus, and there's some steps and things that you have to do. And what's really neat is, I'm just not on here talking to you without giving you something. You can go on YouTube, and I have a 7-day plan on YouTube, absolutely free, that helps people push into their selves. Like they take an hour out of the day to create a space. I give these steps, and I also have a free ebook that I would like to give to you, sis, and you can give to maybe people who subscribe to your channel. So you can offer it to new subscribers or however you want to do it, but I'll send it to you. It's called The Great Print, The Blueprint to Greatness. So, when we think about operation, when you think about an operator, when you think about somebody coming in, a doctor, they have to give you a medical clearance, they have to check you out. And so, just assessing where you are. So I think all of us could use encouragement with this 2020 going on, right?
And and just in life in general, we need the encouragement. It's so awesome that you spoke. First of all, Jeremiah 29. Okay, first of all, this week started out, and I was like, "Oh, so you're just gonna give that to me, God?" And it was just really, it was all of the things that you said is so great. I want to touch on something that you did say, and that is God being within you, and the greatness within you is from God because He created you. And it's so crazy that sometimes people talk down on themselves so much. You're so okay with believing all the negative things about yourself, but you won't believe that the one reason why you're here, the one way that you got here, was because you were created by something so great, and they're in you. Like that's the only way that you're gonna overcome. You're gonna have to realize your greatness within. So it's really awesome that you said that. Like all of those things, our story is our strength. I just made a post this week, and my story is my strength. My story is what God gave to me.
Yes.
So yes, I love it. I love it.
Sometimes people's voice, they get muzzled. Like now we're wearing masks, I have one too. Like now we're walking around like this, covering up our mouth. And that's really prophetic. That's really like, okay, stop speaking. That's really like, hold it in. Don't share your story. First of all, we were made in His image and His likeness. Wonderful. So that's automatically lit right there. And then second of all, in Revelations 12:11, which is one of my favorite scriptures, they overcame by the blood of the lamb, sacrificial lamb, that's Jesus, right? And then they overcame by the blood of the lamb. And now, what am I saying to you? They overcame by the blood of the lamb. That means they overcame by Jesus. And there's an and. So what is the and? And the word of their testimony. So if I fix you a dinner plate and it has chicken cutlets and mashed potatoes, your dinner is chicken cutlets and mashed potatoes. The formula for overcoming is Jesus and a testimony, a current testimony, your testimony, my testimony. Like this testimony is inside a book. So somebody can read it and somebody can feel encouraged and somebody can keep going. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. So what does that mean? Your heart can get sick. If your heart is sick, come on, how many people have had a heart attack and then survived? How many people, when the blood isn't flowing right, when you stop believing, when you feel hopeless, when you feel like that's a wrap, that's it, you give up and you receive as you believe. But if your faith is being attacked, if whatever you believe is being attacked, how can you inspire, be encouraged? How can you go on? How can you live the purpose? How can you be great?
Right.
How can you? You can't. And so that's the whole point and the plan of the opposition, whatever it is that you believe, whatever is pushing against your purpose. See, God said He had a plan to prosper you, not to harm you. I had to question that. And when I questioned that, I heard God say, that situation is not my plan. So if you're listening to this message and you finding yourself in poverty, you're finding yourself in a dangerous situation, you're finding yourself not where you want to be, you're finding yourself in depression. Okay, just be real. Come on, hello. If you are just unhappy for whatever reason, you're angry, you're unforgiving, you're bitter, just deal with it, right? The deal is that's not God's plan. His plan is to prosper you, not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So now we got to unclog your heart. You can't harbor that unforgiveness. You're mad about what didn't happen. You feel entitled. You feel old. You hurt. And that's what I talk about. That's why I wrote my book, because in my book, I share how to forgive. If I could forgive somebody that tried to murder me, if I could forgive somebody that molested me, then you can do it too. But I walk you through the process because I know it's not easy. So yeah, I'll give you a story of what went on and you'll get the visuals, but I'll also give you a prayer to pray you through, and I'll give you some steps. So I'm just sharing that because that's important. It's important for us to testify. It's important for us to not stay quiet. It was important for me to get that out so people who went through that story. So now everybody that's listening to this has a story. There's not one person on here who does not have a testimony. And somebody have said, I even heard it in leadership groups. Oh, nobody wants to hear about your book. Oh, nobody wants to. I've heard it. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
What?
I mean, when you talking to people are thinking, they talking marketing, they talking business, and I share my story because I understand that when I exit this earth, I'm still gonna have a voice here. I share my story because I realize, and it's in book form, so it can go to the prisons that I won't be. You have, first of all, what's going on. We can't travel in different places like we normally would. Not even gonna say the bad C word, but according to my book is inside prisons right now circulating. My book is in another country right now that I might not be able to go to, and so it was amazing. Dr. Miles Monroe, he wrote so many books. I didn't even know who he was when he was alive. But when he passed away, I started reading all of his books, listening to all of his YouTube, and he left a piece of him in the earth. So there's another little story in the Bible, y'all. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
All right. Sorry.
There's another story where, people had, and I'm just paraphrasing. So for my people who know everything exactly, to the perfect people, I'm sorry, that's not me. But so the paraphrase of the story is basically God gave everybody some type of gift and a treasure or something to do. And some person buried it, some people doubled it, and somebody else, they flipped it again, right? For the terms of me talking holy hood. But what am I saying to you? When we got to that person that buried it and didn't do anything with the treasure, he was like, yo, what did you do? You didn't do anything with it? Like you just kept it? No, it's time for us to multiply it. And so that's what a book will do. And a podcast, this is what this is doing, sharing information and even getting these podcasts transcribed. But we all have a story. So when we exit this earth, your book can be left for generations and generations. And so now that I wrote my story, can I be honest? Like, I don't like to read. I don't like to write.
Oh.
I'm an author.
I'm right there with you. The writing, it's not about not liking it. It's just like translation from what's in my mind to what I can speak to you about it. I can be there for you, but to write it down, I forgot everything. I forgot everything I did. I don't know what I'm doing here. So yes, yeah. I know.
Yes. So yeah, for me, it's just I have so many, and I'm just lying to myself saying that I'm not a writer. I have over 30 like little notebooks since of my not writing journey. Notes are everywhere. I write on top of things. I am a writer that just is in denial, right? But now I have this book. I have Hood Credit to Good Credit. I have the Great Print. I have many other things. But now I realize if I stand in front of people and share my story, if they want to take it home and share it with somebody else, and I haven't bottled it up, I haven't packaged it up, I haven't done something with it where it can be tangible, then I'm robbing the earth. It's not fair to me. And so I'm just getting back to being great. That's part of being great, living in your purpose. Yeah. Like duplicating yourself, sharing what you've been through, sharing what you've overcome. And all of us have overcome something. Even if you're in the middle of something. When I wrote my book, I was not healed from those issues. And people would advise against you doing that. Right. And so let me share with you. The first book I wanted to write was a book called Holy Who, Yes You. You Can't Live a Life of Holiness. So I was going to write this book about being holy. Oh, you're not ready for this part. How to go from a hoe to being holy. That was just, oh my goodness, right? So that's the book that that was a book that I wanted to write. And I wanted to write that book because I wanted to be extreme and let anybody know that you can be holy. And I was coming from that scripture where Jesus was talking to the woman by the well, like, hey, yeah, you had many husbands, but like, and then he started prophesying to her, talking to her. And then after that, he said, go and sin no more. And, she changed her life and she went to testify and she became an evangelist. And so just letting people know that one touch from God, no matter what somebody's called you, no matter where you are, I don't hear too many people ministering and preaching to people in the strip clubs, people that are in a different type of lifestyles, so my charge and my call is to the holy hood, to let the people in the hood know. I pray for the dope boys, the drug dealers, the strippers, the scammers, the murderers, because I understand that Apostle Paul, whose name was once Saul, had a supernatural experience with God, but he first was murdering people who believe. And so I go after the harvest, and that's in my walk, but that's part of me being obedient. But you could just start with your testimony, like share with people what you've overcome, but to the point of being great. When so that book didn't come out, right? Because the book that I was supposed to do in obedience was daddy issues. When I was speaking to a person, I took a course about how to write a book in a few days, and I was speaking to them and they were sharing with me, okay, well, what book you going to write? And I told her the title and she was like, so you just coming out holy off the rip, like you just holy? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, I got this 5 years. Yes. And she was like, well, I think people want to know who you are. Like, do you have any other book titles? I was like, oh, I got plenty of book titles, but this is the book I'm ready to do right now. I want to help people. And so she said, just read me the book titles you have. And Daddy Issues was like the last title. And when I said Daddy Issues, she was like, that's the one. And I was like, girl, that's not the one. Because I still got some issues. Like, I know that's on the list, but that's definitely not the one. And long story short, I sat, I prayed, and as I began to write, I began to remember some things, and I began to go through some things, and I began to get healed and delivered. And what am I saying? I want you to get this picture in your mind, viewers, podcasters, friends, inspirers, right?
Yes.
Think about your sink. Think about your kitchen sink. So you may be good right now. You turn on the water is flowing out clear. That means you're good. You think you're good, right? But there's something in the pipes that's clogged up. So the clear water can't even flow down. It's stopped up. So you this is not the overflow you want. You don't want to flood your situation. You don't want to flood your house. You want your pipes to be clean. So that pain, that hurt, that unforgiveness, that thing that you've been covering up for so long, so good that nobody knows about because you got your business looking pretty, you got your cute pictures up, you got everything going on. You haven't dealt with some internal issues, right? You saying I could forgive him, but I won't forget, right? You got all these grandmama analogies, all these sayings that has nothing to do with God, because God said love is patient, love is kind, it endures all things, it keeps no record of wrongdoings. So you got your own swag with you that has nothing to do with your dad, because your dad is God and God is forgiving, and you just like, try Jesus, don't try me, I throw hands, like whatever you got going on. But you
I do love that song, but yes, I know.
No, right, it's true. But then we gotta be like, okay, but Jesus didn't throw no hands, and God wants us to be Christ-like. So I get it. So which side we gonna choose? That's why it's important to deny our flesh, and we gotta, the weapons of our warfare and our carnal. What does that mean? You don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You gotta fight the way you need to fight. So we got spiritual warfare, and we've been put on earth to call heaven into the earth to bless the people that don't even know. So if you know, right? And so for me, it's the light, right? Like they say, oh, for me, it's this. Well, for me, it's the light. It's the light. For me, it's the love of God. And so now think about your sink. You got this water. You got something that you want to say. You want it to flow. Like Lady Ty the Great, I want to do all these amazing things. I want to help people operate in their greater, but I got daddy issues. Wait a minute. So I have to clear up my issues that people can't see. We're not talking about you look real good. You're looking good, but you have issues on the inside. So what am I saying? As I begin to write daddy issues, that began to get unclogged, because I was able to release things that I had suppressed. I was able to release things that I had covered up, issues that I haven't dealt with. And so this is what happens when we write. Sometimes you don't want to write the truth. You're like, I know what happened. I don't want to write that. You don't even want to relive it. but I had to release it. So in me releasing it the first time, I was able to look at it a second time. And now with God, asking him, like, help me with this, and even reading it, I was able to get a revelation. I was able to get healing, but first it had to come out. Like, if you can get things out of you first, then you can get it right. Many people don't want to write it because they're trying to get it right in here, and you're fighting in here. And so when I wrote it for the first time, I was like, okay, I thought that was done, but it wasn't. The process wasn't done. So I'm just sharing that you can be healed. Writing is a form of therapy, and you can be healed while you're writing. And so for me, that was the experience. So if it's somebody that feels like, oh, I'm stuck, I'm going through this, and release it first and then let it get readjusted. And so now my view is different. I wrote the book, I wrote some things out, and then it was like, okay, well, what am I trying to do here? And you don't want to make, people the bad guy. What are you expressing? And so I want to inspire. I want to encourage. I overcame. And so that's part of being great, releasing and knowing, releasing so you can be realigned.
That was going to be one of my questions. What are some greatness factors that people could strive to embody? And one of them is being able to release.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
there's something great in being able to release and let it out and tell your story. It's not about having a sob story. You're not looking for somebody to feel bad for you. You're looking to change somebody's view by sharing and letting them know, listen, I'm there. I've been there. I
Yeah.
could be there again tomorrow. You never know. But you're not alone, and I'm not alone in this. We all are together in this, and that's a form of greatness for sure. What are some other greatness factors that people could strive to embody?
You know, other greatness factors is taking time to sit with greatness. Now you can have prayer time, meditation time, whatever time, dance time, whatever time you have, but I'm requesting and sharing that people would spend 1 hour just sitting in quietness with the greatness on the inside of them. Just asking that greatness to arise and speak, with a pen and paper. And those are steps that I share on that YouTube series, Operation Greater, that I was telling you about. And I began to do what is it? I began to do, and I don't want to call it a seminar, but not a workshop, but I started doing a conference, and I went back to my hometown and I gave back, and I began to teach people everything that everything that I had learned, how to write a book, how to start a business, just giving them and just seeing what the crowd wanted. What did they want to know? Because anything that I wanted to know, I learned it. I researched it. I did my own website. It wasn't fun because I'm not a tech person. I'm a creative that just gets 1,000 ideas, like all these sparkles behind me. These are my thoughts. I have a million thoughts, and I'm ready to start stuff up, and I'm so excited and just sharing. So a great tactic is even finding your song and singing your song, doing your dance, the confidence in you. So enjoying life, but start your day off with thanksgiving, with being thankful. An attitude of gratitude is the key to greatness. Anytime I found myself in in a upside down kind of mood, I can guarantee you, sis, that I didn't wake up and say I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful. I didn't look at the things that I didn't I didn't fill up on being grateful. If just being 100% honest. I looked at what I was missing. So, like, we have the greater and the lesser sign and the equal sign. Don't look at the glass like it's half empty. Look at it like, wow, it's half full. This is great. And clap for yourself. Get excited for yourself that you have done some things. So these are all different tips and tools that you can do. Begin to celebrate yourself, and then document what you need to do next. It's great, all these accountability groups and business groups that people can get involved in, but invest in yourself. But realize what you want, and don't forget what you came for.
Yeah.
You know, I've come here to be great. And how can I be great? I have to be disciplined. So for me, I incorporate prayer and fasting because it helps me deny my flesh because I get in my feelings. What's that song? Feelings. Got me all in my feelings.
Yeah.
I get in my feelings about almost anything. I'm in my head. You know, some people say they in their head. I promise. I'm like, well, what happened? What today? And I promise you, I'm not concerned with the opinions of others. I would love to believe it, right? That I'm not, because I'm doing my own thing. I'm authentically me. I've accepted the fact that I'm not accepted over here, over there, because I'm trailblazing a lane. So I'm not looking for a place to sit no longer. I've accepted the rejection and understand that because I am leading a different type of people, there is no space for me to sit down in certain areas as a follower. But a great leader is a follower, so a follower of Christ and all that. But yeah, so but great practice of, being disciplined. But what are you being disciplined in? That's why you have to sit with that greatness. That's why you need that time with God, whether you're a believer or a non-believer. I just want to encourage you because you receive as you believe. So if you don't believe in anything, okay, then you receive nothing. But if you have something you believe in, and I believe in the greatness, I believe that there is a peace that you can get that surpasses all understanding. And that's what I strive for, to balance things out. And when things aren't balanced, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, and that's really really good. My father is from Africa, and he's from 100% Muslim country, right? I grew up Christian. My mother is from where I'm from Harlem, New York, and she.
Oh, Queens. Okay, New York.
Yeah. So, but in my father's culture, there's so many things that I learned just. Uh, a lot of people would classify Muslim uh, culture and religion as pretty disciplined in general, right? So if you have a whole culture that's going around the Muslim religion, you're gonna expect that it's somewhat organized and all of that. So the thing about my dad's culture is your name. You live by your name and you die by your name, right?
Wow.
So your name, it comes from your tribe. Your
Mm.
tribe that you're born into constitutes what life and what lifestyle you live up to. So there are warriors who are also herdsmen and people of the land. There are musicians and creatives, and keep everybody they keep everybody enthused, but also the most important thing about them is that they keep the lineage alive because they tell stories of the history of our people. And
Wow.
the other important thing is the name that you give to your child. So
Mm.
your name means something. A lot of times here in our American culture, people will make up names or they put two names together and it'll be
Very.
something like that. But and even when I tell people my name is Munina, right? But here, if I was here, it's that doesn't mean anything in English, but in my father's language, Munina is derived from uh Hawa, and Hawa in the Quran is the same as Eve in the Bible. So
Wow.
Hawa can change to Mana Hawa, and Mana Hawa can be changed down to or derived down to Menina, or Mana, Menina. They have different. You know how we have Eva, Eve, Ava, things like that. So,
Right.
but that means my name means mother of all mankind. It's equivalent to
Wow.
that, right? So you have to understand what your name means. And in order to live up to what you were born into, you have to know where it comes from. So it's so important, especially when you said sit with your greatness, with your penny and paper, and learn what God is calling you. He's naming you. Learn what He has created you to be, and it might take time for you to understand the full capacity of what that means. Because for me, growing up, I wanted to be a mom and a wife. That was my thing. And I don't know where that came from because I was, I mean, my mother and my father were together until my mother passed away when I was 12. And I never seen a family dynamic where it wasn't a mother and a father in the house. My father married years later, and he's still in that marriage. And I never seen anything different. But for me, having a family was the greatest thing, And I thought that my name meant something pertaining to that because I'm going to be a mother and my kids are going to be great. But I am 36 and I don't know if I'm going to have kids or ever be married. I don't know when that's going to happen or how that's going to happen. That's up to God. I stop to figure it out. But that doesn't mean, right, let me know, God, please. But that doesn't mean I don't live up to what God had my father to name me. And I say that because my mother always told me the story. Your father wanted to name you after his mother, and my grandmother's name is Hoig Mala, and we in America here, so what are we gonna call that? So obviously that's great. That's fine. But she was like, "How about we do this? We put names in a hat, we shake it up, and the first one that you pick is going to be her name." Hoping that Quay Mala would not come out. That's what my mother said. She said, "I hope." And my name came out. So I can say that God chose my name for sure.
Yes, he hooked you up.
Right. He hooked me up. And what right, what he named me really applies to who I am and applies to my purpose because I know that through my testimony and through who I am and through Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger, uh, that's what Eve did. She whatever mistake she made, she came back from them and did what she could to make the best out of what God told her. Here's what you have to deal with, but you can still come and talk to me. You still belong to me, and I'm gonna send something to you that is that's gonna be everlasting for you, and you're gonna have a chance to do it over again, and sharing that with the rest of the people in the world is a purpose that I know that I have.
Yes,
it's so important. It is so important.
I love that.
People who are home and they're like, I don't have anything to live for. I don't have anything to be to aspire to. But that's just not true. And the first place where you can start is learning what you were here for. Learning what you're here for.
Yes, I totally agree. When you were saying that, I think about Eve being the first. I think about Eve being a trailblazer to motherhood, you know? And whether you're a physical mother or not, you're mothering this podcast. You're mothering the listeners even right now. And you are the mother of inspiration, aspiration. So that is beautiful because you're birthing encouragement and motivation in this earth. So I just want to say salute to you and thank you to you for that. And I believe that everybody that's listening right now should take a look at their name and their meaning and get excited and live up to it. My name is Titania, right? That's Titanya. That comes from Shakespeare's play Midsummer's Night Dream. But in Shakespeare, it's spelled with an I instead of a Y. However, Titania was the queen of the fairies, and she's got an interesting testimony, if you will. But when we look up the definition, it means giant in all things. And it explains a lot because I've always been animated, always been excited, always been childlike, full of life and full of joy. And some people who just didn't have that same type of energy or joy would knock that. Like, why you always so, and then I toned it down. But now that I know who I am, as an adult, now I'm excited because I kept a piece of it in a place. Growing up in New York, you learn to adapt. Okay, so So, being a pretty girl getting on the subway, you learn to make mean faces. You learn to do what you have to do so you can keep the wolves away from you. And in that process, I'm just so grateful that I didn't lose me. You know, a part of me became tough, but I didn't lose that femininity. Like I'm back now. It's okay to be gentle and soft and kind of. And I moved to Atlanta, so I love New York, but I was like,
Oh,
okay.
it got me to run too. I'm still in Harlem, and I know that is the number one thing. Tell my friends they don't understand. I don't understand why y'all understand. Y'all from New York. They be like, "Why do you look so mean?" Because you don't know what happens outside. Come on. Now, how many times you get grabbed on your wrist? Hey, yo, shorty. First of all, I'm taller than you. I'm not a
Don't touch me. Right, and don't touch me.
yeah.
Just touch me. Like I don't know you.
Yeah.
How? Why did you just touch me? Yeah, and so I just think we look amazing. Sorry, in the middle of the podcast, I'm just. This is us doing a podcast. If you don't already know, this is aspire big, inspire. Am I messing it up? Please tell them the right way. So
Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast.
yeah, so that's what we're doing right now. So if you don't know, you better go like, follow, look, share something because we are encouraging the world. But right now we're talking about names. But y'all need to listen to the show to get the rest.
Yes.
Sorry, y'all. I had to check Instagram in real time. But
Hey.
I'm so excited because I'm so excited because what's happening now is when you look at your name, when you know who I am, something on my book says your identity is revealed when you get healed. Like you need identity, like your identification. Like who are you? If you don't know who you are, where are you going? Like how So me knowing that my name means giant in all things, it's okay that I overdo things because it's not overdoing. That's me. It's not too much for me. I would save in one area so I could splurge in another. I'm making sense of things. I do my own hair. Well, I do have somebody that does my hair time to time, but I do my own hair. So that's not money that I want to spend. I want to enjoy a nice seafood restaurant, or a nice trip out of town. But I will say, so you put things where it's necessary. And now having the name Lady Ty the Great, I have a friend, my friend Sheena Curry, and she said to me, when she looked at my name on Instagram a few years ago, she's like, "Oh, so the Great, are you ready for that?" And I was like, "What is she talking about?" And like, what do you mean the Great? Like, yeah, she's like, "Lady Side the Great, that's a big name to live up to." And I'm like, I didn't get it at first, right? Because I'm just like, it's the great, like helping people operate in their greater. But guess what? Greatness is a process. And as I was going through this process, and some things wasn't quite going the way that I thought they should, I'm like, what is going on? But I'm being processed for greatness.
Yes.
Sometimes we get drawn back. You feel like you're going backwards. I wasn't. You get drawn back so you can get shot out like a bow and arrow. Right after I wrote my book in Great Obedience to God in 2017, me and my children were hit by a tractor trailer. Our vehicle flipped over 7 times. It was totally crushed. It was no way we should be alive. I should be grateful. But hear me. I was upside down in the vehicle, found to be alive. And my question to God was, I had liability. Wait a minute. So I know you're saying, wait a minute. Yeah, because I'm saying I had liability because I owned my vehicle. So what I'm saying is, how's this going to get repaired? Or, because I'm like, now we're upside down. We're upside down. Everything is crushed. We were coming from church, and I didn't want to go to church that day. So I'm big mad.
Right.
I wasn't encouraged. I wasn't inspiring. And I wasn't inspired. Nothing. I was just the opposite. But I'm saying all that to say it was 3 years before I started driving another vehicle again. It was the case, it was different things went on that I looked at as unfair, right? Because I'm being obedient, I'm doing all of these things. Where's the reward? Well, there is a great reward, but you get the reward and awards when you go to school. They do different things now, but when you go to school, the award ceremony is at the end of the progress report. It's at the end of the year. It is when you graduate, they give you, I haven't graduated. I'm still on earth with you all. You know, I'm still going through the process. And so the process of greatness is enduring. Endure, but not just that. Come on, we already talked about it. Greater is he that is in. Who's the greater one? God. And then guess what? Jesus had the nerve to come down here, do amazing things, and then say this: greater works you're gonna do. Who are you talking to, Jesus? Who's gonna do greater works than you? First of all, we trying to even catch up with your works. Like we're admiring you and your swag and your style, and you just told us greater. You just said you're gonna leave and give us a Holy Spirit that can teach us and help us, right? And so, how many of you maybe listening and maybe you believe and don't believe, but if you can hear all these bad voices, you got to know that you spiritually connected. There is a good voice. It's just the fact that you haven't fed the good long enough to hear it louder. So some of us, it's like we got on headphones and God's voice is sounding muffled to us. It's sounding like Charlie Brown because we have to unclog. Just like we was talking about when we write and we release, you have to release the pain. I had to release the pain. But I released it, keeping it real with God. And so that's why I'm a truth consultant. You might be saying, what is that? Don't listen. People be consulting stuff. So I consult people on the truth. Yeah. My radio show, podcast, Pure Truth Sessions. You want to do a consultation with me? We're going to talk like what's really going on. Because you're going to share with me who did what to you and why and the blame and the guilt. And I'm going to share to you that God is working on you and you have to release them and start moving in total love because that's amazing. And I'm going to talk to you in the truth and I'm going to show it to you in the word. And I'm going to show it to you in real life. And I'm going to ask you, how is that holding on to that bitterness? How is that working for you? People been dead and gone and you still mad at them and you say, well, this happened to me because of that. We can do anything that we want to do. We can learn anything. YouTube's available. Google's available. You can no longer blame your parents for where they didn't send you and what they didn't do. We have to take responsibility. So being great is taking responsibility. You understand? I could play the blame game all day. I'm the wizard at. Hold on, let me tell you. I was the queen of that. I'm gonna put the crown on. I was the queen of it was somebody else's fault if they didn't do this and did like that, if that would have happened. But we're not dealing with shoulda, woulda, coulda. You understand? Now I want to be crowned in God's glory. And what God's example was somebody who gave up, who sacrificed, and they had not a mumbling word. And so now I want to do things greater without a mumbling word. And I'm still in the process of that, y'all. And there was a time in my life where I wore a crown every single day. And when people would say, it's your birthday, happy birthday, I say, no, Christ crowns us daily. And they would be like, what? And that would help me be nice, sis. Because guess what? One time I went to Enterprise to get a rent-a-car. And something didn't go quite right. But at the beginning of the transaction, the gentleman said he complimented the crown and asked, was it my birthday? And I said, no, it's Christ crowns us daily. And I said, it helps me just, be Christ-like. It's a reminder. And he was like, wow. So almost an hour later, I was like, hey, like, what's going on? I'm at the counter, like, you said this and he was like, oh, well, he started talking and the conversation wasn't going too well. And I got ready to get in my, my mode. And he said, what happened with the crown? I said, right. The crown. What would Jesus do? Right? Like, I don't know what he was like. Well, Jesus, could you get my car together then? So
you want to borrow real quick? Because I want a car. That's what I can get for.
And I've been waiting and so now me being a greater version of me is me just releasing. It's me not complaining in the process because, okay, I've learned to endure. I've got over, but now how many times have you heard that saying? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. So I can do what I'm supposed to do, but if I do it complaining, if I do it grudgingly, come on, God loves a cheerful giver. Not just do God love that, we love that. You want me to hand you a Snicker bar and throw it at you? Like, no, you want to receive things in great joy. And so now I'm working on me, the inner me. So I've released the daddy issues, released the different things, and that's great. And now I'm helping others release their story. But with that, great patience. To whom much is given, much is required. It was a lot for me to tell my story. And immediately after it, I was hit by a tractor trailer. You think I want to tell another story? You can have the fear of, man, what's next? But God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. And so now it's time for us to realize, they have that saying, where's the lie? And that's why I like being a truth consultant, because I want to ask somebody, where's the lie? Why haven't you written your book yet? Oh, well, I'm waiting for the right time. And I'm about to, okay, 2020 showed us the time is now, honey. Because plenty of people been waiting for the right time, and they sleep, or they woke somewhere else on another side. And so the point is, their purpose hasn't been released in their earth. Their voice hasn't been released. And the truth is, people are not confident. That's why they haven't written their book. They don't believe in themselves, because that baby was robbed from them. But God promised us that whatever the enemy stole, he said he's going to restore it unto us. Come on. And God said that he's going to restore it 7 times more. So it's my job to come on messages like this, kind of like a hammer, just helping people break through and use their voice and let them know they are important. They do matter. It could have been a teacher in the 2nd grade that said something to somebody and that closed them up. Yeah. Had them feel like they weren't worthy. There could have been that cousin that you admired. It could have been it could have been an event, but for whatever the reason it is, we're listening to everybody else when God has people assigned that are ready to listen to you. Somebody's listening to your podcast, sis, that's supposed to have a podcast. Yeah. Somebody's listening, and it's good that they're listening, because we're just decreeing and declaring that you will be released. So this message was not by chance. This connection was on time for you that's hearing this. It's time for you to get committed to you in respect to God. Don't disrespect God by disrespecting yourself, by not living up to who he called you to be, because God believed in you. This is an amazing example. Moses, okay? Moses stuttered. Moses did not think he was the one. Moses seen a bush on fire. Moses was like, what is going on? And just he was like, hold up. So if he didn't believe, he was like, this stuff is serious. This bush is burning and it's just consuming. Like, what is happening? And so Moses had an encounter with God that he could not forget. And then God kept kicking it with him. Moses was God's friend, and God gave Moses instruction, like, hey, go here, say this. And he's like, who, me? No, I need help. I can't say that. I stutter. I do this. So if we have stories in the Bible, and these stories are, again, testimonies, so you can overcome. So if Moses didn't believe in himself and God chose him, we know the 10 commandments. So he followed through. He went, and do you think, there wasn't punctuation back then. So if you think you can't spell, and you think you can't this, and this is your reason you won't write a book, trust me, they have editors you can hire. But what I'm saying to you is, get it out. Moses obeyed. So be in obedience. Consider this podcast as a charge to the call that God has on your life. You are great, and you're not going to do it by yourself, because there's a helper on the inside. And God gave you helpers on the outside. We're on this message to encourage you right now. So Moses did what he thought he couldn't do. God gave him a friend to go along with him, Aaron or whatever. Okay, then they got some things done together, but still, God chose him just like God chose you. And your prosperity, your healing, everything is all tied up in the fact that you're not walking in who you truly are. So get your name, find out what that means, understand, and spend that an hour alone in greatness and give God his shout out. Go ahead and be grateful for what you have, where you are, but also God gave you a vision. The vision God gave me, I'm like, oh, wow, how's that going to happen? Yeah. But guess what? It's happening. I wrote a book. I'm doing, there's so many things. I have a course now helping people heal an entire course. Even in the midst of me writing my book, I was retiring my book, trying to do something else, right? I was trying to go forward with Operation Greater. And then God blesses me, and I do an interview with LL Cool J about my book. And he's asking all of these questions. And I'm like, oh my goodness, he is digging. Why is he digging so deep, God? And God says, because people need to be healed. So now I have a journal that helps people personally heal. And God opened up a platform. Your gift is going to make room for you. But if you don't know who you are, how can you know where your gift is? Christmas time, people go under the tree and they look for the gift with their name on it. But you haven't identified who you are. So now today is your day of your identity. You're going to receive it. You're going to release those things. So I'm just excited. I'm grateful. Thank you. Like, this is an awesome, this is, yes, like you, this is so great. for you to have a place for people to get the encouragement that they need. So I'm excited for you and I'm grateful for you. Thank you for your yes and your obedience,
Thank
sis.
you. I always love to hear that, and I always love to say that to people because there's sometimes people can just downplay themselves, whether or not they mean to, and it is their obedience that really got them to the point where they can talk to another person who's purpose driven. And also, what you said, get to know who you are, get to know what you're here for. But do know that if you don't know those things yet, everything is not a bust. You still have hope. You still have the ability to learn that there are people in this world who are here to help people and guide people in that way. I created this podcast. You have your company. You have everything that you do. There's so many people who just want to be a light to other people because they have realized who they are and the direction that they were going was totally opposite of why they were here, and they got to turn around and go the right way. And they share that story, and you can get inspiration from that, and that will be the catalyst. I always talk about this on my podcast, and I'm going to say it in short before we go to our last segment, which is called the introvert corner. So in short, I always say in my podcast, in 2011 I was pregnant with twins out of wedlock, and that is, I'll go back to what I tell you my daddy was from, 100% Muslim. They don't play that culture. And so that was bad. It was bad for me. It wasn't who I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted for myself at all. So I found myself in a pickle, basically. I got to 5 months pregnant, and my body gave birth to my children. My body let go of the pregnancy. Nothing was wrong with the babies. My body just went into labor, and they didn't make it. And I just had to say to myself, now, they had a purpose, obviously, and things happen for reasons, but I did have to say to myself, who are you? What woman are you? I lost my mother at 12, and I think that I was missing that understanding of myself, and I was looking for it in the most inopportune places, and clearly I found an answer, but it wasn't the right answer, in a relationship. But I was able to say, look at what God told you, who God called you, what are you called to be? And I am able to, I built Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger in that time because I said to myself, I have to be, I have to be who I think I am, because I was always the one who said, I'm the good girl. My father did not let me go outside. Okay. He was not playing that. You gotta respect yourself, and if you can't respect yourself, you're gonna respect me. I will shut this whole operation down out here in these streets, right? So,
operation shut down.
Right. Okay, don't let nobody do nothing with this child because I would just. You remember in the cartoons where they would push the Acme and everything would blow up, the whole mountain would blow up. That would be my father. Right? Yep. Blow this whole thing up in here. Don't.
People would say, look, and people would say there used to be a place in New York called Harlem, but it got blown up in the year.
This crazy African man blew it up. He sure did, and went back home, taking me and my child going back to Africa. So yes, but at that time, after I lost my children, I was really going through it. I was really, really going through it on the inside, and I didn't have any hope. I was like, at night, I would, and I share this with people because I know it's real. I know it happens to more than just me. I will go to sleep at night and say, God, if you love me, don't wake me up in the morning, because I had lost so much hope. And in the morning I would wake up and be like, oh, okay, so all right. So you playing games, guys. So how I'm gonna put him between a rock and a hard place, thinking I'm putting him between a rock and a hard place, and then be mad at him when he don't do what he's like, little girl, go to sleep. Wake up, you better in the morning. But the first thing I used to listen to, you know what? I used to try to give myself a way out too. Don't wake me up in the morning, but if you wake me up in the morning, give me something that can get me through the day. And I woke up every day, and I would turn on Eric Thomas, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher. I would turn him on every single morning, and he had what up, what up, what up? It's your boy E.T. Thank God it's Monday, right? And even to this day, if I hear him say that, it make me emotional because if I needed to hear that. I was able to hear God through that. Thank God it's Monday, even if it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I would spend my day being in a trance and back in the hospital room, PTSD with losing my children. That was traumatic, you know. But in the morning, I would hear, "Thank God it's Monday." Thank God, make the rest of your life the best of your life. That was
Yeah.
it for me. That one right there, make the rest of your life the best of your life. So I'm saying all of that because I can attest to the fact that I have been there, hopeless, feeling like, God, if you love me, you wouldn't wake me up in the morning. I'm hurting. It's too much. It's too much, and I'm in it by myself. People will say, oh, you young, you be able to have more kids. First of all, my kids were mine. And if it was a child that you were went to full term, or you bore that child and you raised that child and they died, I would never say that to you. So, you can't
Right.
say that to women who, have that kind of loss, but that's a whole different story. But I was felt in it alone, and I felt hopeless, and I felt all kind of things, but I have to share that because I know there's people who are in that space right now. I know there's people who might hear this a year from now. I shared my story on YouTube in 2014, and there are women to this day who will comment on that video in 2020 and say, "I lost my baby last week, and thank you for making this video because I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to feel. I feel alone. I feel scared. I don't know what happened to my body. I thought everything was fine. Every time I went to the doctor was like, "You're strong. You're good." Then I went one day and I was
Wow.
like, "My stomach hurts. Something's wrong with my baby." And they were like, "Oh no, you're fine." But that night I had to go to the hospital. They were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're dilated. Like we can't stop it." So you never know what's gonna happen, but and I know that feels hopeless. You feel like you had no control. The one place that was supposed to house your promise gave out on it. But the truth is, there is hope, and there is a day that is going to come that you'll overcome it within your mind because you already overcame it. You got past that moment. You didn't die in that moment. You overcame that moment. But your mind and your feelings have to follow. But the important thing is to make the rest of your life the best of your life, and just keep that in your mind every moment. Whatever I do right now is gonna make the next moment better than the last moment. Whatever I do right now, and keep going forward like that. So it's awesome. It's awesome that all of the things that you spoke about because they're so important. I'm gonna make sure all your links and everything are in the YouTube space, and I put myself on iTunes and everything. I'm gonna make sure anybody and everybody can find you. And so let's get to this introvert corner. These last three
Ready?
perspective questions. They're gonna be quick, uh, rapid fire, and let's see what we can get. Cause I'm a stark introvert, and there are a lot of things that I just won't be doing out here in these streets. But I love to learn from the extroverts. And like if y'all gonna jump off the building, tell me how it felt when you get down there. I'll wait for you at the bottom, but I'm not jumping. Okay? Y'all gonna get on the roller coaster? I will hold your bag. I will fry the before we get on the bus on the way there, so we have a little snack to eat on the way to the Six Flags. But I'm not getting on that roller coaster with y'all. But y'all can tell me how it felt after. So this is a rendition of that. So number one, how do you assess risk in your life?
Wow. Okay. How do I assess risk? You know something? I just don't think I assess them. I just go for it. I just go for it. If I think too long, um, yeah, and I normally don't think too long. If it's great, I create, and I think if I thought of it, let's do it, and I just go for it. And by the time it's a risk, I know it when I look back, like oh my goodness, So I don't.
I thought of it, I do it. That's
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'll make a whole spreadsheet. So if
Yeah,
I
and you know what happened?
one,
And what happens to me as I start to try to do that and make a process. I don't want to do it anymore. The
Right.
feeling is gone. Like, yeah, so if I'm gonna do a podcast, if I'm going to write a book, whatever I'm gonna do, I have to just do it. If I think about it, then you're not even gonna get it. It's not happening.
Little bit I do it. That's it. I like that. Okay, so number two. What would you like to manifest in your life over the next several months?
Oh, the next several months, a completed school. Greater you. So I already started the process, but I wanted to have 12 things in it that people can actually go to. So I have courses already up, but in over the next couple of months, I want the school to be complete. Where when somebody says, "Hey, I want to do a podcast," they can go to Greater You and how to do a greater podcast. Hey, I want to be a recording artist. You can go to Greater You. Hey, I want to write my book. You can go to Greater You. So I want to offer greater courses in 12 different areas.
I like that. That is nice. Huh. I was. I don't. I don't know what I. That's the problem with the spreadsheet life.
That's okay. But we friends now. We connected now, sis. So we gonna work it out. And we're gonna work on your book too.
Because there's been one since 2014. It's
Oh, I'm here for you. We're gonna get it going. And y'all gonna see the next podcast. I'll be interviewing her on her podcast on her book. So y'all get ready.
yes. At her school.
Yeah, come on, Greater You. That's right.
Right. Okay, so last question. What shapes you?
What shapes me? I'm gonna give this answer. God shapes me. Every time I try to shape myself, I run back to his hands for his molding. So God shapes me. I cannot say life. Life tried to shape me, and that put me in a place of bitterness when I held on to that instead of holding on to his promise. So God is responsible for my shaping because I have endured and I'm sharing without mumbling, I believe, and I'm enjoying the process now. So it is definitely God, because he's keeping me, and without the foundation of God's love and forgiveness, I would still be mad at myself for decisions that I made as a young girl, and I would still feel condemned and horrible as the world would make you feel. So God definitely shapes me. He shaped me in love. He forgave me, and that's what gave me the ability to forgive others. And now I can tell my story without shame because he shaped me. Now I have full confidence. Like, I don't care what you're saying. And I wanted to share inside my book, I misspelled a word or two. There's mistakes. It's not perfect. And because of that, the first book, I leave it like that to let people know my book is out. Over 1,000 copies sold. People read it and they got healed and delivered with a word being misspelled. Nobody died. We survived. You understand? And so I just shared it to say, because people will criticize you and people haven't released their story because they're waiting on being perfect. They're waiting on doing something in such a way that is just not going to happen. Maybe it will, but just work with me to release your first book and then you do your next one perfect. My job is just to get you to do it that first time.
Right. I like that.
So
Ooh.
God is the shaper. He's the potter and I'm the clay. And as long as I continually remind myself of that, I can guarantee that there is something more than what I'm experiencing. I can believe in the greater you because it's not my idea, it's God's vision. I'm Lady Ty the Great because God said so. And so believing in that, and when I get weak, let the weak say I am strong. But my favorite scripture is on the wall. I don't know which one it is. Corinthians something, y'all. 2 Corinthians. But it says, my grace is sufficient. Like, when you are weak, just paraphrasing again. So sorry, perfect people. But basically, when you are weak, in your weakness, Christ's strength is made perfect. So what does that mean? when you all the way at the end of the end and you don't know which way to go, when you're past depression, when you're past these dark areas in your life. Like, have you ever been, well, I won't ask you, I'll just share. I have been so depressed that I was past depression. There was a time when my son ran away and I was seeing visions of him being cut up at the side of the road. My daughter had cut her wrist. And I just obeyed God. God told me to pack and go and move out of my sin. And I had left my ex, the person I was with, and moved out, and me and my children were without a home for 5 months. But in my walk of obedience, this is when the son runs away, the daughter's trying to kill herself. And I just said, hey, 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 hey. I was driving her to school, and the Holy Spirit said, look at her wrist. And I'm like, this, first of all, if I hear this inner soft voice telling me to look at her wrist, this cannot be good. And I looked at her wrist and I saw the cuts. And we pulled up to the school and I said, what's that? Because I already got my own stress going on. Like, what is that? And she's like, oh, and I'm like, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, you know what? And I'm honest with you, I was past disappointed. I wasn't even comforting in that moment. I had a selfish moment, kinda. I said, y'all need to take a number because this is crazy. Like, she said, well, I was worried about my brother. And okay, so you just gonna try to kill yourself? Like, so in the middle of us looking for him, and I'm worried about that, right? This what you gonna do? So I'm gonna have how much stuff to plan this whole week? Like, and so I just said it's very ungrateful. I said, people have abortions, people give children up for adoption, different things happen. But I raised y'all, I kept y'all, we lit, like we're obeying God, we're pushing through, we survived so much stuff, and you just gonna try to cut your wrist, and so, and I'm sharing this with you guys because I overcame that. My daughter's chilling. She's 22. This is when she was in high school, first freshman year or something. My son is chilling. He's everything is good now. But there was a time in life where he ran away like every day almost.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's sometimes we have to think about the pressure. If we have pressure and we have umpteen years over our kids or over the people we're guardians over, and the pressure we feel, they don't have any point of reference. They don't have as many years of point of reference as we do. So they're like, you know what? My head hurts too much right now. I need this to stop. It's hard though. It's hard.
Yeah. And so in that moment, I was just real. And this is what I'll share. So I remember I dropped her to school. I didn't do a report about nothing. And I was just like, God, you know what? Whatever. And I went back to my friend's home where we were staying at in the one room. And I was so down that I didn't even know it, because here I am. I heard God tell me to pack and go like Abraham. Didn't know who Abraham was. I opened up a Bible that I had stole out of a motel. Like, I am telling you some serious stories. You hear me? And here I am obeying God. And it's like every time after I obey him, something crazy happened. So I'm like, hold on now. But because there's greater, there's nothing we don't lose with God. And so that's the whole point. When you're having a fight, the only way you lose is if you give up. So I never gave up. And that's the point of this entire message, for real, is to keep going. When people say, oh, I tried it. If you stop trying, then you didn't try. You understand? To try is actually to succeed. If I say, oh, I'll try it, I was waiting online for 2 hours. If I stopped at 2 hours, then I didn't try. To try is to do, and it is to succeed. To try is to execute, actually, because you don't give up. If you try, and you're gonna execute. I know some people say, oh, don't say the word try, but I'm just telling you my example and my story and my testimony, why trying, why attempting and not stopping, not giving up, is proof. So I never gave up. God pulled me closer in prayer, and that's what happened. But I'm saying that particular day I was so low. I didn't even know that I was depressed because I was just wiped out. I didn't have anything in me. And so when I returned to the home, I opened up the computer and I was reading the Bible, the one app, 1 year or something. They have a thing where you could read the Bible in a year. So I pulled that up. I had already read it earlier. So I just started reading it again to see if God was going to say something because I couldn't believe what I just saw. And so I pulled it up and it was talking about the donkey talking. And I'm like, okay, I got all this going on. And you gonna talk about a donkey talking? I'm like, that's not the scripture that I want to hear. And what happened in that moment, and the room was small. In that moment, it was like the room big, and this is sounds strange, but that's fine. It's supernatural. In that moment of me being at my lowest point ever, that I didn't even know that I was there, the room, it was like the room began to fold. The room began to bow. It was like a tree was coming up out of the ground. So I'm looking at my computer and like out the side of my eye, I'm like, what's going on? The presence of God came in that room. And I'm like, oh my God, is he here? Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God, if God is here, what am I doing? Like, and I'm like, okay, I'm reading the Bible. He's here. I'm like, do I look over there? Like, what do I do? And so it was so weird because I was kind of like this froze and his presence was there and he passed by and touched my shoulder. Now you could say that that's crazy because if you told me that, I would say that's crazy. So, but I'm telling you, from where I was, God came to see about me. I was past depression. I didn't have the strength to try to kill myself. I was at such a dark, low place. But when the presence of God entered into that room, this is how I know he's real because of the encounters. Before that, I was a non-believer. I was trying to be a 5%er, trying all type of stuff, the Egyptian stuff, Dr. York stuff, you pick up anything, whatever. And shouts out to anybody, whatever they believe in. I'm not knocking any of that, but I'm just letting you know I tried to tap in with many other powers and I didn't experience any power like what I experienced with God. When he came in, my life changed. And so when I was at my lowest point, he walked by and I just felt a touch. And that was it. And everything was okay. The next day my son was found and everything was fine. And from then we're still living. Like, this was several years ago, but I just share that to say he came to see about me. And I'm not so special that he's only come to see about me. He wants to see about you too. He is available. And the more you connect in, and it's when we get to our lowest. So that's why that scripture, his grace is sufficient. What is his grace? Jesus. Like, God is available. You understand? Like, when you feel like you're not enough, let him fill that empty space. And that's just my prayer for everybody on here, that anybody that felt empty, overwhelmed, stressed out, that you would know that you're not alone and there's a greatness on the inside of you. And we just command it to rise right now.
Right. So thank you for joining me on my podcast. You gave so many great jewels, so many great gems, so much inspiration, and I just want to make sure that anybody who's listening to this, make sure that they commit to having it work out, and that is going to get you to the next phase. You might not know how to do it, you might not know where it's coming from, but to commit to saying to yourself, no matter what, I'm gonna make sure I see this thing through. That is going to get you there, hands down. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert, extrovert. It doesn't matter if you believe or not believe it. If you commit getting to the end of the road, you're going to get there, and you're going to learn about yourself on the way, and you're going to learn about some things that are bigger than yourself. You're going to start believing in them too, for sure, for sure. Thank you so much, Lady Ty the Great, for joining me here at Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Y'all make sure y'all follow her. Make sure y'all get all the things that she has to offer. And I'm sure there's going to be more. More and more and more.
A greater you.
That's right. That's right. All right, y'all. Later, y'all.